Why, hello, everyone. It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday, June 21st, 2022. And we have baseball to talk about. We have Ken's guarantee to talk about. I'm making bold predictions and I'm not stepping away from them, even though we lost on yesterday's wager. And I think it went 4-4, or it was not good. The Angels did not win. That happens. But what's interesting is that I have now connected everything. So we're looking at today right now, and we're going to craft today's 7-team round robin. My guarantee is that every day I'm going to provide you with a 7-team round robin, a wager, something looking like this, where you distribute out how you bet on each combination of parlay. I won't get into the details of the round robin bet specifically. You'll have to see other videos I have on that. But basically, this is wagering $25. And these are not the teams we're going to play, unless it's actually possible these are the teams we're going to play, but I haven't actually looked over it yet. That's what this video is going to be about. This is just the top 7 teams that the algorithm is spitting out right now for tomorrow, based on descending by margin. I have not looked over the games yet. I have not adjusted pitching stats yet. I haven't done anything. So I'm not recommending what you're seeing right here. This is not yet. we need to do the video to figure out what's going on here. So we're acting with imperfect information today because it is only 2 o'clock and none of the lineups are confirmed at all, unless some are confirmed when oh my goodness, Colorado's confirmed. Let's add them. So only one team's lineup is confirmed. So we're not going to have the correct lineups, and hopefully we will have the correct pitchers. But we're going to act with imperfect information because I've got to get it done. I'm going to be doing something else the rest of the day. So we got to get it done, right? And I'm sure a lot of people operate under those same constraints where you need to make a bet and you need to forget about it and do something else. So let's go through every game in order of actually what the algorithm is saying. So the algorithm is saying Yankees, a team that's playing fantastic, against Tampa Bay at -170. That game is right here. It has Tampa Bay scoring no runs at all, actually negative runs. That's a little off, but Ralph Garza, 0-1 with 22 innings pitched. Does Ralph Garza have any last year stats? No, he doesn't. How about AAA? Nope. So we have to go with these sort of limited Ralph Garza stats, but Nestor Cortez is pitching phenomenal, and the Yankees are hitting and playing phenomenal. And the lineup factor for Tampa Bay, while not confirmed, is still really low. They're on the road. Do you take the -1.5? We're gonna say no, even though it says you could. Actually, this is one of those tough calls where I hate making calls here. I want to make it simple and prove what the algorithm does. So you could take the -1.5 here and get a line like even money, and it would change your payout somewhat like this. I'm not going to recommend that because I'm just going to point to the algorithm picking winners today. And what we're going to do is within this sheet is we're going to actually remove teams that we don't like when we see them here so that we're left with the 7 that we're going to be picking. So let's continue to do that. So the Yankees are staying on there as the #1 pick of the day. They're supposed to win with a better pitching matchup and a better lineup. Second team is the Dodgers against Cincinnati. The line is just about as bad really. They have Tony Gonsolin going 8-0. Tyler Mahle not producing this year very well. So once again, could take the -1.5 for the purposes of our bet, though, and for the purpose of picking winners, and because of another reason, which is that on your round robins, you cannot afford losses. Losses destroy payouts. So are the Dodgers supposed to win? Yes. Will they win by 1.5? Probably. But we don't want to risk it for the extra benefit in line because we can't have losers, and the algorithm is supposed to predict winners. So Dodgers are staying on there. Second pick. Third pick, Detroit and Boston. It likes Boston right here. Says they win 6-4. This is a higher scoring game because Rich Hill's ERA is worse. So here's something where it's the third pick of the day because Detroit is so bad, right? So you're counting on Boston at home to win, but the line is worse. And what do we see here? We see a closer game score-wise because you don't have an ace pitching like in the Yankee game or in the Dodger game. So does Boston to win go on here at minus 200? I say no. I see that line. That line is not at the top. You know, it's the third one. So it's saying it's not worth it. Now, do we pull Boston off of this game completely? Or do we say the over-under is the place to play because you've got two pitchers that have poor ERAs? That is where we look at weather. And the weather in that game is scheduled to be 10 right to left, 68, not necessarily great conditions that are screaming over, in my opinion. So what's happening in this game, and this is why we go over each game, is I'm pulling Boston off of the list, which you can do right here under pivots. Boston's not going to be a pick because the line and because they don't have an ace pitching. So now they're off. So now what does that do to this? These become our 7 teams. These become our lines. This becomes our payout. Okay, let's keep going. Atlanta with Spencer Strider against San Francisco. That's this game right here. Atlanta's supposed to win 7-1. DeSclafani, terrible ERA this year. Last year, better. If you use last year's stats, because it's a little more reasonable and it's more than 13 innings, Atlanta only wins this game 4-2. Still the 9th pick of the day, though. And here the margin is only 6%. So watch what happens if we refresh this. Okay, Atlanta moves down. So I'm going to jump back and forth for our picks because I want to show you what the order is and what's frozen. Like right now, we've frozen just these guys are the ones we've frozen. The rest we haven't yet. So let's look at Seattle first before we revisit Atlanta, which only has a 6% margin when I just changed the pitcher stats for DeSclafani for giving him some last year stats. If he, he's not a bad pitcher last year. This year, 13 innings, 6 ERA. I don't know where he played or what happened. I'm willing to go with last year's 167 innings because it still produces an Atlanta win, but shows you how much closer it would be. So let's move down to the Seattle game now because maybe that's a better pick. Seattle is number 4 now, winning 6-3 against Oakland. Kaprelian, miserable. Marco Gonzalez, not good, but not awful. But this is really bad for Kaprelian. And you see all the runs here in the line, only minus 140. Seattle probably wins by 1.5, but for the purposes of round robin, we're going to keep them on there as just to win. I'm picking a lot of road teams today, but there are reasons for it. Next, San Diego. What do we do with San Diego? Arizona and San Diego. Barely San Diego by a run here, 10% margin though, and they're at home. The reason is Zach Gallen, better pitching stats than Sean Manaea's pitching stats, which are actually pretty good. But the lineup for San Diego better, San Diego at home. San Diego probably does edge this game out. I'm torn because Zach Gallen's pitching is better. So when it comes to looking at teams, you want to have all things confirming. And I understand why this is a 1-run game now, because you're like, wait a minute, 10% margin, San Diego at home, they should win this. They probably do, but there's a chance that they get held up for runs and Arizona wins, I guess, a lower scoring game. And rather than risk it at minus 130, I'm just going to pull them off and see if there's a better option to wager. So we go to the pivot and we say San Diego is just a little too close to call. So now let's look at the next game, which is Toronto. Toronto is, where are you, Toronto? Where are you, Toronto? My eyes are not working. Tampa Bay, Toronto, there we go. Sorry, Toronto versus White Sox. 6th pick now, says Toronto 4-3. Gausman threw gas and got rocked last game, though. And Dylan Cease stats are also great. Here's another one, right? You have a really good pitcher in Dylan Cease at home. How can you say that that a pitcher who got rocked and a team that's not playing as well in Toronto, not playing as well as the White Sox over the last 10 days? I think we're doing 10 days. Yeah, 10 days. That's scary. And Toronto's a favored line, so I don't think it goes on there. I think it's too close to call. So that's coming off. Back to the Angels. Good old Angels blew it last night. Let's see what they're doing against Kansas City tonight. Says they win 5-4. You've got Heasley with bad win-loss, but not as bad ERA. Very similar to Reed Detmer's. Angels at home here. Their lineup factor slightly better. Somehow Kansas City's bullpen held up last night and beat us. They're going to do that 2 games in a row. But the line is minus 165, which is not great. However, they're the 7th pick of the day. And they're playing about the same. And all other things being equal, I see how this game falls to the Angels because they're supposed to score more. It's just really, really close. I'm going to pull it off for now, but it may go back on there. Minnesota says that they're playing the Guardians. They're supposed to win this game by 3 runs. Okay, wait a minute. Even though the margin is only 6%. Joe Ryan, pretty good pitcher. Aaron Savali, terrible ERA. See how this is a better pick than the previous 2, than the Angels. See how this just confirms more runs. This line's still minus 164 for Minnesota, which is about the same as 165, but this is a better pick. So it should be higher up on the list. And the way to get it there would be to add a little more to ERA. Would move that pick up, I bet. Maybe. I won't start messing with the percentages because they're doing okay. But point is Minnesota is going to go on there because it confirms all over the place. And even though they're not playing as good as Cleveland, they're at home and they're dealing with some question mark. What about Savali's ERA from last year? Better. And here, actually, Cleveland wins. Wait a minute. That's why. Yikes. Spoke too soon. That's 31 innings, though. Well, I'll go with 2022 stats because it's generally better. Especially with this many, and we'll push it toward Cleveland until Minnesota. I'm gonna pull them off, but they're the first one coming back if none of these other picks are better. Because I like that Minnesota pick. I said the L word, but that's bad. Atlanta, where are you? Atlanta is right here against San Francisco. Didn't I already go over that game? No, I just talked about this. Oh yeah, I did already go over that game because it was further up. Now it's still fine because Spencer Strider pitching well, Atlanta playing well. So Atlanta does stay on there. So we're leaving Atlanta and fusing Atlanta in this pick. That's now okay. And then we have St. Louis next. St. Louis. Now we're starting to get into underdogs too. So we see what we might keep on here. St. Louis is against Milwaukee. This is the game with ridiculous ERAs. So this is the game where I'm tempted, if I did it over under today, it would be this game because that is ridiculous. And it's predicting 9.6 runs with this craziness. But I mean, what do you do if you change it to 2021? It's still 8.3 runs, and St. Louis hits Milwaukee really hard, and they get to bat in the top of the 9th. So, okay. I think what I'm going to do is, in addition to picking winners, because I was thinking about doing this anyway, and making the round robin juicier and playing off of extremes, I'm going to take an alternate over here because Milwaukee is a dome and you can hit this dome, and these ERAs, as you can see, this is, I know shortened stats, but it's so ridiculous that especially St. Louis's teen runs is really the pick to make. If you think about it, that's kind of what I'm talking about. So that's a safer than an alternate over. However, an alternate over, which is what I'm thinking is going to happen here at like 11.5 or 12.5 can pay a lot more. So, I'm going to keep it simple, but I just talked about a lot of options you can make with straight bets. I'm going to say that because St. Louis wins this game even more authoritatively with last year's stats, and Chichi Gonzalez has some ridiculous ERA that St. Louis at minus 130 just stays on here basically. So I'll leave them there, and that'll be the pick. But there are other things you can do in that game. So we're up to here. We got 2 more to go. Philly and Colorado. Unless we want to do 8 teams, but we're not going to do 8 teams. Philly and Colorado. Philly and then Colorado. So Philly is right here against Texas. And they're not even supposed to win by projected score. They're only supposed to win by margin. Wow, that's a good pitching Martin Perez. Way too close to call. Absolutely not. Plus you're going with Philly on the road. Texas can spoil the mixed bag here. Is absolutely way toss-up game. You can see why it's even money. So that's got to come off here. Let's look at Colorado. Colorado versus Miami. Here it gives it to Miami by score, but Colorado by margin. Daniel Castano. Okay, so these stats have to go. This is bad. The 0 ERA stuff in 10 innings, you can't have that. Here we've got more reasonable stats. This pushes the game to Colorado by a run. And they're now the 5th pick of the day. So if I refresh this, if you look at what happens to our thing here, Colorado actually gets highlighted automatically because now they're in 5th position because of what we just did. I think we want them though, based on what that was showing, because Daniel Castrano will probably do something like this. Colorado is actually playing well. Their stats are a little inflated, gives it to them by a run, but they're supposed to, because these stats are a little better for Felton there because a higher ERA in Colorado, you got to bring it down a little bit when you're thinking about it. So I like that the algorithm is giving Colorado the benefit of the doubt here. And their lineup factor should be better depending on what's confirmed. So that you can see it gets an 11% margin in a 5th pick in this comparison. So they're on there now. So you now got this order and St. Louis. Now we need one more. So we're looking at the Cubs versus Pittsburgh. It actually favors Pittsburgh by score. Pittsburgh's a favorite. Gives it to Cubs by margin. Why? Because they have a better lineup factor. They generally score. I don't know why it's given it to them. Oh, because Matt Schwarmer's 1-2, but has won 25% of his games, and Ronci Contreras doesn't win as much, but has a better ERA. So I see why this is getting confused and why the score is mixing with the margin. So I actually do need to take a little bit off pitcher win percentage, but I feel like we should bring it over to ERA. Exactly. In that sense, it lowers that margin a little bit. And there's a few things we can do here. It also maybe helps the score a little bit. Well, point is this game's too close to call because of this, because Ronci Contreras is supposedly a better pitcher than Schwarmer, but it's going to be a dogfight. And it's too close to call with even +1.5 because the Cubs bullpen has been a disaster sometimes. Don't like anything about that line, that game. So that's coming off. Baltimore and the Mets. Baltimore and the Mets. Let's see if we're gonna. Okay, so well, let's look at the Mets first, and then we'll look at Baltimore game. So the Mets, 12th pick, 4-3, playing well. So's Houston. Urquidy not as good as Trevor Williams, whose record isn't even great. But the Mets are hitting well. I'm tempted to. I like the Mets also as a fan of the Mets. So at this underdog line, let me quickly check last year. It's just, it doesn't favor the Mets by margin because Urquidy was a better pitcher last year. But how many innings has Urquidy pitched? 61, and he's still having ERA problems, but he's winning games. So it's interesting. He's getting hit, and he's still winning because Houston is outscoring. So 12th pick, I'm a Mets fan, so I'm going to leave the Mets on there unless the Baltimore game is so much better. And I don't think I'm going to go back and add on Minnesota, but let's take a look. Baltimore is underdog against Washington. So that's the local game here. Crazy ERAs. The weather's great in the area today. Baltimore is playing great, and the Nationals are not. Yeah, I want to put them on there. Also want to put an alternate over. I want to do an over-under round robin as well, but I don't have it ready for this video. But you can see how I want to do it in some of these games. I mean, Baltimore's pretty strong here. Two pitchers that are having trouble, but man, it really looks like an over in this game. Yeah, goodness gracious. I really want to do that. All right, we're going to restructure our bet. That's what we're going to do. And I'm going to look it up on my phone and get you a crazy line. Because I do want to do a couple things because I want to explain why taking advantages of the algorithm, like I'm gonna do some crazy stuff at the last minute. So Washington versus Baltimore over, we're gonna look at something else. And then there was that other game where we want to do the over. So I'm gonna get rid of some of these bad lines. I'm gonna show you. All right, I'm gonna show you two things. That's what I'm gonna show you. Okay. There's this, which is pretty darn good. Okay. These are the winners. This is one round robin if I was doing winners and I wanted to hit this, the 1 out of 5 days that we're talking about. Okay. 1 out of 5 days where you get a lot of these games right. These I think are pretty good picks. And on these 8, you're gonna go, it certainly feels like you're going at least 5 and 3, at least really 6 and 2, I'm feeling, and probably do a 7-1. And there's probably a 7-1 day is what this looks like. All right. Now the straight up algorithm, not adjusting for anything, has, these 8 teams, and it puts Boston on here with the weak pitching I didn't like. It puts was it Toronto and the Angels and stuff. It's not as good according to my analysis, right? So I'm liking this. So that's one round robin. Other thing that I'm going to do with another $25, because this is a good payout, but it's only 18-1, and I like to do some crazier things. So what I'm going to do is talk about those other games that had overs, and also talk about things like -1.5. So if you wanted to really get paid on these picks, you're taking these 3 teams -1.5, and you're adding the Mets on, which I don't think we had before, but you want alternate overlines that are like, let me just show you what it does. Like if you do an alternate overline instead of the Mets, like, an over 12.5, let's call it 11.5, make it reasonable. 11.5 for Baltimore versus Washington. All right. I'm going to look that up really quickly on my phone, but it's probably going to be something like, plus 240. Like, look at what that does to your payout. All right. And that's why I'm tempted to take advantage of the extremes that the algorithm is predicting. And you need to get a really great payout on something in that kind of situation when you can. So there was also like St. Louis team runs, actually. I'm just going to restructure the round robin to show you. St. Louis team runs, over, it's probably going to be 5. Let's see what, I'm just going to check all this stuff on my phone real quick because it's just easier. And I'm going to show you exactly what a really heavy paying round robin is going to be off $25 as well. So in the Baltimore Washington game, first of all, where's the game? Baltimore Washington game. I'm looking at alternate total runs available on FanDuel, and you can do over 11.5 plays 186. All right, but we're predicting a ton of runs, and the weather's good. And I'll go over 12.5 is plus 240. I'll push it one more run because it's just paying so much more for one more run. It makes sense. Okay, so there's that. Then I said St. Louis team runs because they're supposed to hit Chichi Gonzalez and they're on the road. They get the extra at bat, right? The over under in that game set for 9. So I would imagine the over is 5 for the St. Louis team runs. And it is St. Louis team runs happens to be, over 5 is actually plus 100. So now all of a sudden you get a plus 100 line here. All right. There was more action on over unders I was looking at somewhere. All right. Let's go back. And there's -1.5. So we're looking for games with bad ERAs. Like we're really thinking we're giving the benefit to St. Louis to hit over their 5 runs in that game. Then what else was there? There's this game. There's this game, which has some poor ERAs. And look at that. It's predicting 9 runs. And the over-under is only 7.5 here. So here's another one with a great disparity in runs. Now you got some Colorado inflated stats in here, but you still have a 4.87 ERA last year for Castro. This year, he's 10 innings. He hasn't given up anything, right? So I can see why this over-under is set at here. It is a little tougher to read actually when you do it that way. So I'm tempted to stay away from an over under there. I'm just looking for more terrible ERAs. Oh yeah, we don't have any action on the Minnesota game because I pulled it off the winners, but it says that they're going to hit Savali hard and he's got 31 innings pitched and he has a big red number there. So you do Minnesota team runs is another one we can add on this one where we can get a better line than Atlanta. And we can, Minnesota team runs, which are going to be, I'll look that up for you right now. Minnesota team runs are over 5 at -112. All right. So now you can see how this payout is just getting bigger off this $25. We're up to 890. We had Colorado to win. I mean, we want to get rid of all this stuff. We're restructuring a completely different round robin that is not dependent on any of the other games. We want it to actually not be related to any other games because that would be like losing the same game on 2 tickets, and you don't want to do that. So what else did we pass over? We passed over the Angels. We passed over some things in here. We passed over Boston at a bad line. Oh yeah, there was the over in that Boston game. I said that hitting wasn't completely conducive to that. So maybe not. But Detroit's team over is interesting in that situation. If you're really going against Rich Hill's pitching and Detroit maybe hitting the ball better, and Brisky's had some, he's not winning either. It says 9. Ugh, it's tough. Well, I mean, Detroit team runs is going to be set at a low number. I just don't know how low. Let's take a look. Detroit's team runs are set at 4. No, it's higher than this. It's not good. This game is just too tough to play still. Don't like it. What else do you want to play with? Dodgers and Cincinnati. We had the Dodgers. Cincinnati does not supposed to score any runs against them. Looking for alternate overs and unders and where scores are predicting differences. I know that, gosh, that over 7.5 is good. Do we get over 7.5 when we change his stats to 2022? You do, barely do. I think there is some weird value here in an over in this game because of what's happening. So I'm going to look up real quick alternate over unders in the Colorado Miami game to get a reasonable line because I like that over 7.5. It's moved to over 8 already, but it is at the alternate run line, alternate total runs. Over 7.5 is -128. Over 6.5 is -210. Over 7.5 at -128 is okay. Over 7.5 Miami versus Colorado versus at Miami. -128. That is okay because of what that is doing there. I said Cubbies +1.5 here. Because Swarmer has a high ERA but does better than you'd think. Ronzi Contreras, doesn't say that it slowly gives them the margin. So the Cubs +1.5. I like taking teams on the road +1.5 when the algorithm says they can get there. Their +1.5 is -156. Okay, so that would go on here. It's 1.5 and -156. And then what else we got? 2 more. I mean, I'm not going to move that game. Atlanta, Cleveland, Minnesota. We already have some. Philly and Texas. This was another one that was too close to call. Notice it's showing an under, but the under is set at 8. So can't really do much there. What about this Toronto White Sox craziness? So here you have really, really good pitching and an over-under of 9. How did I miss this? What's the weather like in south side of Chicago? That's what I want to know. What's the wind in the White Sox stadium? 14 right to left at 91. Yikes. So that could potentially be hittable weather, especially at 91. So I see why the over under is set at 9. Is there anything to take advantage of there though? Because it's predicting a score of 6.6 because of these good pitchers, man. And Toronto's favored. Under 9 is still, I mean, I know it's warm, but even their bullpens are actually not awful. They're not great though. White Sox are playing better if they win this underdog. Really close, but there's a big disparity in score, right? Look at that. Like all the pitching is supposed to slow that down. So I'm looking on the phone at the odds of that game. The under 9 in the White Sox game is -104. That's an even number that pushes as well if it gets to 9. So let's try it. Under 9. The White Sox versus is Toronto, right? Yep. In Chicago, -104. And we got one more game to add to here. I don't think I took the Mets on the other one, right? They were the 8th pick at +116, and it does favor them by margin. That's going to be my fun because I'm a Mets fan. Well, so here's another round robin. I mean, look how crazy this one is. So there are 2 today. And I will record them. I'll record them right in here. So basically we're going to have total wagered amount today was 50. There's a 7-team all winners. And then there was, well-paying over under mixed MLB, all MLB, right? So, also 7-teamer. Right, so this is going to be what the 2 are. So 7-teamer. We'll see how they do today. Basically, we'll have wagered $75 total. I'm saying that by the end of the baseball season, we do this every day. We'll do at least one every day, but I probably will do something like this because the whole point of the algorithm is to take advantage of extremes and bet along those lines. So if we don't make any attempts at these type of round robins, then the whole point of what we're doing, which is micro betting for certain outcomes, is wasted on not actually doing it. So there will be this one and the one that I have before, which I will post snapshots of in the Google Sheet. And hopefully we can have some outcomes that do what the algorithm says they're going to do. All right. So I guarantee we'll be up by the end of the year doing this. And this is day 2. And good luck. And may all your picks be winning.